I never thought I'd spend Thanksgiving afternoon in a hospital waiting room with a wine-soaked shirt and blood trickling down my forehead. But there I was, texting my lawyer 4 words. Phase 1 is complete. Let me back up. My name is Andrew Matthews. I'm 62 years old. Been retired from my engineering project management career for 2 years now. After 35 years managing construction projects across Arizona, I finally hung up my hard hat when I turned 60. My wife Jennifer passed away 4 years ago from cancer, and since then, I've been living alone in our 3-bedroom ranch house in North Scottsdale. It's a solid place on Desert Ridge Drive, about 10 minutes from the TPC Scottsdale golf course where I play twice a week now. We bought this house back in 1995 for $85,000 when Jennifer was pregnant with Sarah. I remember thinking we were crazy to spend that much money, but Jennifer loved the neighborhood. Today it's worth about $750,000. The whole area changed completely over the years. Young tech families everywhere, Tesla chargers in every driveway, million-dollar homes going up where orange groves used to be. My daughter Sarah is 32 now, works as a marketing manager downtown for some tech startup. Does pretty well for herself, pulls in about $65,000 a year. She married a guy named Brian Coleman when she was 26. He sells insurance, makes around $55,000 when he has a good year. They've got 2 daughters, Ashley, who's 8, and Rebecca, who's 6. Sweet kids, remind me of Sarah at that age. They live out in Tempe, about 45 minutes away depending on traffic on the Loop 101. Nice suburban house, typical Arizona tile roof and desert landscaping, but nothing special. I see the granddaughters maybe once a month, sometimes less. Sarah's always busy with work and the kids' activities. Ashley plays soccer, Rebecca does dance. Normal stuff, but it keeps them running around constantly. When Jennifer was alive, we saw them every weekend. She'd bake cookies, we'd play in the backyard, watch Disney movies. The house felt alive then. Now it's quiet most of the time, but it's peaceful quiet, not lonely quiet. There's a difference. The whole thing started 2 months ago with a phone call that changed everything. I was out on my back patio drinking my morning coffee and reading the Arizona Republic when my phone rang. It was my financial advisor at Fidelity, a guy named Steve Morrison I've worked with for 15 years. "Andrew, we need to talk," he said. "Someone tried to access your 401k accounts yesterday. They didn't get in, but they got far enough that our security system flagged it as suspicious activity." My stomach dropped. "What kind of access?" "They had some of your personal information. Birth date, social security number, Jennifer's maiden name, even your mother's maiden name. The attempt came from an IP address we've never seen before, but it's registered to someone in Tempe, where Sarah and Brian live. Can you tell me the exact address?" He gave me the address. It was Brian's house. I didn't confront them. Instead, I did what any engineer would do. I gathered information and made a plan. The next day, I called Matthew Rodriguez, the estate lawyer who'd handled Jennifer's will 4 years ago. Smart guy, maybe 50 years old, used to work in elder law before switching to estate planning. I'd seen him around the Scottsdale Men's Golf League at TPC. We met for coffee at a little place called the Coffee Bean on Scottsdale Road, near the old Borgata shopping center. Rodriguez listened to everything, took notes on his phone, and when I finished, he leaned back in his chair and sighed. "Andrew," he said, "I see this pattern every month in my practice. Adult children getting impatient about inheritance. They start small, testing boundaries, accessing accounts, suggesting new living arrangements. Then it escalates, always escalates. You think they're planning something? I think someone is. Could be your daughter, could be the son-in-law, could be both. But that account access wasn't an accident. They were fishing, seeing what's in there, what kind of access they could get." He paused, sipped his coffee, looked out at the Camelback Mountains in the distance. "Here's what we're going to do. We set up safeguards and we document everything. If this goes where I think it's going, you'll need proof that you're mentally competent and that any pressure or manipulation is coming from them, not from any cognitive decline on your part." Over the next 2 months, Rodriguez helped me do several things that felt like preparing for war, which I guess we were. First, we arranged a full cognitive assessment with a geriatric specialist at Mayo Clinic. 3 hours of tests, memory evaluations, cognitive function analysis. I passed with flying colors. The doctor said I had the mental sharpness of someone 10 years younger. We got it all documented, multiple copies, notarized. Second, we updated my will with ironclad language and multiple witnesses. Clear instructions about who gets what, and specific clauses about what happens if anyone contests it or tries to claim I'm mentally incompetent. Rodriguez called it bulletproofing. Third, we set up a living trust with specific instructions about my care if I ever do become incapacitated. Independent trustees, clear guidelines, no room for family members to override my wishes. Fourth, and this was Rodriguez's idea, we installed hidden cameras in my living room, dining room, and kitchen. Professional installation, high definition, with audio. 3 different angles in each room. If they're planning something bigger, Rodriguez said, they'll reveal it eventually. And when they do, you'll have everything on video. I felt like I was setting a trap for my own family. It made me sick to my stomach, but Rodriguez was right. I needed protection. 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, Rodriguez and I did a final check of everything. The cameras were working perfectly, the legal documents were filed, and I had passed every cognitive test they could throw at me. We both knew something was coming. You could feel it building like a monsoon storm over South Mountain. Remember, Rodriguez told me as we sat in his office overlooking Old Town Scottsdale, stay calm no matter what happens. Don't let them bait you into an emotional reaction. The cameras will catch everything, but you need to look like the reasonable one. Thanksgiving started normal enough. Sarah called me Tuesday to confirm I was hosting dinner, same as we'd done for the past 15 years. I always host the holidays. It was tradition, something Jennifer had started when Sarah was little. Even after Jennifer died, I kept it going. The house felt more like home when it was full of family, even if it was complicated family. I spent Wednesday preparing everything. Turkey, sweet potato casserole with the little marshmallows Rebecca loves, Jennifer's famous stuffing recipe that took me 3 tries to get right after she passed. I even bought some craft supplies for the girls, those little turkey handprint things kids do. The house smelled like sage and butter and cinnamon, exactly like it used to when Jennifer was alive. For a few hours, I could almost pretend she was just upstairs taking a nap. They arrived around 2:00 in the afternoon, right when the Cowboys were kicking off against the Giants. Brian's Honda Pilot pulled into my circular driveway, and I watched from the kitchen window as they unloaded the kids in what looked like an expensive bottle of wine. Sarah was wearing a dress I'd never seen before, something that probably cost more than their monthly car payment. Brian had on khakis and a polo shirt, looking like he was dressed for a job interview instead of family dinner. Dad! Sarah came in first, gave me a hug that felt different somehow. Tighter than usual, like she was trying to hold on to something. House looks great. You've been keeping up with the landscaping. Thanks, sweetheart. Desert landscaping pretty much takes care of itself once it's established. Girls, come give Grandpa a hug. Ashley and Rebecca ran over, and this part felt normal, genuinely normal. Ashley showed me a drawing she'd made in school of our family, all stick figures holding hands in front of a house. Rebecca had lost another tooth and wanted to show me the gap. They told me about their Thanksgiving program at school, about their friend Madison whose parents were getting divorced, about the new playground equipment they installed at their elementary school. Brian shook my hand, grip a little too firm, a little too long. Andrew, thanks for having us. This wine's from Napa Valley, a 2019 Cabernet. The guy at Total Wine said it's supposed to be exceptional. You didn't have to bring anything, Brian. Oh, I insist. He set it on my granite countertop with this little smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Only the best for family. We settled in the living room, while the game played in the background. I'd set up the good china in the dining room like always, but Sarah wanted to chat first. That should have been my first warning sign. Sarah never wants to chat. She's always checking her phone, talking about quarterly marketing targets, complaining about her boss, Kevin, who apparently doesn't understand digital demographics. Today she was focused, present, making eye contact, looking at Brian every few seconds like they were running some kind of coordinated presentation. So, Dad, Sarah started, settling into Jennifer's old armchair, Brian and I have been talking about your situation. My situation? Living here alone. This big house. It's a lot for one person to maintain, especially as you get older. I kept my voice level, even though I could feel my engineer's mind already calculating angles and stress points in this conversation. I managed just fine. House is paid off. Maintenance isn't too bad when you know what you're doing. But you're getting older, Brian added, leaning forward on the couch. We worry about you. Falls, medical emergencies. What if something happens and no one's around? You're not exactly spring chicken anymore." The phrase spring chicken irritated me more than it should have. I've got my phone, neighbors check in. My 401k and Medicare supplement are solid. I'm not exactly helpless. Brian and Sarah exchanged one of those looks married couples give each other when they're about to tag team you. Here it comes, I thought, just like Rodriguez predicted. "We have a proposal," Sarah said, and I noticed she was speaking more formally than usual, like she'd rehearsed this. "Brian's parents just retired last month, sold their place in Tucson. They're looking for somewhere in the Phoenix area, but you know how insane the market is right now. Congratulations to them. They're really good people, Dad. Active, healthy. Brian's mom was a secretary at the high school for 30 years. His dad managed the hardware store downtown. Real salt-of-the-earth folks." I nodded, waited for the pitch. In project management, you learn to let people talk themselves into corners. Brian jumped in right on cue. "We were thinking, you've got those 2 extra bedrooms just sitting empty. What if my parents moved in? They could help around the house, keep you company, and honestly, it would be cheaper for everyone involved. They'd pay you rent, of course." "You want your parents to move into my house? It's perfect!" Sarah's voice went up an octave, the way it used to when she was trying to convince Jennifer to let her stay up past her bedtime. You wouldn't be alone anymore. Brian's mom could help with cooking, cleaning. His dad's handy with tools. He could fix things around the house, and we'd all be closer together as a family. The girls could see their other grandparents more often. I looked at Sarah, really looked at her. She was my little girl, the one who used to build blanket forts in this same living room, who cried when her goldfish died and made me bury it in the backyard with a full funeral service. But right now, she looked like a stranger wearing my daughter's face. "And what do you think about this arrangement, Sarah?" "I think it makes sense, Dad. Practical. You'd have built-in help as you age. They'd have an affordable place in a great neighborhood. Everyone wins." The turkey timer went off in the kitchen, cutting through the tension like a fire alarm. "Let me check on dinner," I said, standing up slowly. My knees creaked a little, which they'd been doing since my 50s, but somehow it felt significant in that moment. I walked into the kitchen and closed my eyes for exactly 5 seconds. Breathe. Stay calm. This was exactly what Rodriguez said would happen. The setup, the pressure, the reasonable-sounding proposal that would give them control over my house and my life. I checked the turkey. Perfect. Golden brown. Thermometer reading 165 degrees exactly. Jennifer always said I was too precise about cooking temperatures, but 35 years of engineering teaches you that specifications matter. I carved it at the counter, plated everything on Jennifer's good Thanksgiving platters, and called them to the table. "Dinner's ready." The girls came running first, excited about the wishbone and the little turkey napkin rings I'd found at CVS. Sarah and Brian followed, and for about 20 minutes everything felt normal. The kids talked about school, their teacher Mrs. Rodriguez, who had the same last name as my lawyer. I asked Sarah about her marketing campaigns. Brian complimented the sweet potatoes. The Cowboys were up 14-7 at halftime, playing in the background on the kitchen TV. All very civilized, all very much the calm before the storm. Then Sarah brought it up again, right as I was cutting Rebecca's turkey into smaller pieces. "So, Dad, about Brian's parents moving in. Have you had time to think about it?" I set down my carving knife and looked at her. "I have. And I appreciate your concern, but I'm not interested in having roommates. I like my privacy. I like my routine." Brian's smile flickered like a light bulb about to burn out. "Roommates? Andrew, they're family. They raised me. They're your family, Brian. I've met them maybe 3 times at holidays. But you have all this space." Sarah's voice was getting that sharp edge it used to get when she was a teenager and didn't get her way. 2 empty bedrooms, your own master suite with the walk-in shower. What are you even using them for?" "That's my business, Sarah." Brian leaned forward, putting his elbows on Jennifer's good tablecloth. "Andrew, be reasonable here. You're 62, living alone in a house worth $750,000. What happens when you're 70? 75? Eventually you'll need help. Then I'll hire help or move to one of those retirement communities in Anthem or Sun City. On my terms, when I'm ready. Those places cost a fortune." Sarah actually laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "Why would you spend your money on strangers when you could have family here helping you because it's my money and my house?" The room went dead quiet. Ashley looked scared, her fork halfway to her mouth. Rebecca was staring at her mashed potatoes like they might have the answer to why the adults were being weird. Girls, I said gently, why don't you go watch the game in the living room, see if the Cowboys scored again? They scrambled off their chairs and disappeared into the living room. Smart kids. They could feel the tension thickening like the monsoon humidity in July. Once they were gone, Brian's mask finally dropped. "This is unbelievable," he muttered, shaking his head. "What is this, pure selfishness? We're trying to help you and you're acting like we're asking for a kidney." I kept my voice calm, the way I used to when dealing with difficult contractors on job sites. Saying no isn't selfish, Brian. That's called having boundaries. Sarah stood up so fast her chair scraped against the tile floor. Her face was flushed red, whether from the wine or anger, I couldn't tell. "Do you know what our mortgage payment is, Dad? Do you know how much childcare costs in Tempe? We're drowning financially, and you're sitting here in this palace like some king hoarding space. I'm not hoarding anything. This is where I live. You live here alone." She was nearly shouting now, her voice echoing off the vaulted ceilings. "Jennifer's been gone for 4 years. When are you going to move on and think about someone other than yourself for once?" That one hit me right in the chest, like a punch I didn't see coming, but I kept my face neutral, the way Jennifer taught me during our worst fights. "Don't react. Don't give them ammunition." Brian grabbed Sarah's arm. "Babe, calm down. Lower your voice." She yanked her arm away from him. "No, I'm tired of tiptoeing around this. My in-laws are good people, Dad. They helped us with the down payment on our house. They babysit whenever we need them. They drove 8 hours from Tucson for Ashley's soccer tournament last month. And now they need help. And your father can't even spare 2 empty bedrooms that nobody uses." I said no, Sarah. "Why?" She leaned over the table, her hands flat on the tablecloth. "Give me one good reason why." I looked at her, this woman who used to be my little girl, and said the only thing I could say. "Because I don't want to." That's when Brian snapped. His hand shot out and grabbed his wine glass, the expensive Napa Valley Cabernet he'd brought to impress me. Before I could even process what was happening, he hurled the contents straight at my face. Red wine splashed across my forehead, my shirt, the wall behind me. The glass itself hit the edge of the table and exploded into pieces. One shard caught my left eyebrow, and I felt immediate warmth, then the metallic taste of blood in my mouth. "Brian!" Sarah gasped. I stood up slowly, touched my forehead. My fingers came away bright red. I looked at Brian, who was breathing hard like he'd just run a sprint, his eyes wide with what looked like shock at his own actions. Then I looked at Sarah, who had her hand over her mouth. I said quietly, "I need to go to the hospital." "Dad, I'm so sorry. He didn't mean to." "Yes, he did." I walked past them toward the bathroom. "And I need medical attention. So I'm going to drive myself to Banner Desert Medical Center. You all should leave." I grabbed a hand towel from the guest bathroom, pressed it against the cut. The bleeding wasn't too bad, but head wounds always look worse than they are. I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror. Blood, wine stains, Thanksgiving dinner ruined. Perfect documentation for what Rodriguez would need. I walked back through the dining room. Brian was still sitting there, staring at his hands. Sarah was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks. I could hear the girls in the living room, their voices high and nervous. "Please leave," I repeated. "Take the children home." "Dad, let's talk about this like adults." "There's nothing to talk about, Sarah. Your husband just assaulted me. I need medical care, and you need to get out of my house." I grabbed my keys from the kitchen counter and walked toward the garage. At the door, I turned back one last time. 48 hours notice in writing if you want to visit again, through my lawyer's office. Then I got in my truck and drove to the hospital, my hands steady on the wheel despite everything. At the first red light on Scottsdale Road, I pulled out my phone and texted Rodriguez. "Phase 1 is complete." His response came back immediately. "On my way to Banner Desert. Don't talk to them. Document everything." The emergency room at Banner Desert Medical Center on Thanksgiving evening was busier than I expected, but not crazy. A mix of cooking accidents, family fights, and people who'd eaten too much turkey. A nurse took one look at my wine-stained shirt and the blood on my forehead and got me triaged quickly. While I waited in the small examination room, Rodriguez showed up. Mid-50s guy with gray hair, always wears these brown leather boots that look like they've seen every golf course in Arizona. He took one look at my bandaged forehead and shook his head. "Tell me exactly what happened, Andrew. Every word you can remember." I recounted the whole dinner conversation, word for word. Rodriguez took notes on his phone, occasionally asking me to clarify details about who said what and when. They took the kids home? I assume so. I told them to leave. Good. You did exactly the right thing by leaving immediately. Shows you're the reasonable one. He paused, studying his notes. And the cameras caught everything? Should have the whole thing from 3 different angles. Andrew, I need to ask this directly. Do you want to press charges against Brian? I looked at him. Rodriguez and I had discussed this scenario extensively over the past 2 months. If things escalated to violence, we had options: assault charges, restraining orders. But it would destroy what was left of the family relationship permanently. I thought about Ashley's stick figure drawing, of our family holding hands. I thought about Rebecca losing another tooth and wanting to show her grandpa. I thought about Brian's face when he threw that wine, the shock in his eyes like he couldn't believe what he'd done. Then I thought about the 401k hack attempt, the coordinated pressure campaign, the entitlement in Sarah's voice when she called me selfish for wanting to keep my own house. Yes, I said, I want to press charges. Rodriguez nodded. I'll call the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office. Within an hour, 2 deputies showed up, professional, polite. They took my statement, photographed my injury, bagged the wine-stained shirt as evidence. They asked if I felt safe going home. I do, I said, but I want a restraining order against my son-in-law. The female deputy nodded. We'll file the assault charge first. Assault with a weapon, in this case the wine glass and contents. Given your age, there may be additional considerations under Arizona's elder abuse statutes. Elder abuse? You're over 60. He's a family member who committed violence against you. Arizona takes that very seriously, especially when there's evidence of financial exploitation attempts. They left to file paperwork. A doctor finally saw me around 7:30, cleaned the cut, applied medical adhesive instead of stitches. Minor injury, no concussion, but it would leave a small scar. I was discharged around 8 p.m. Rodriguez drove me home in his Jeep. My house was dark, empty. I half expected Sarah to be waiting on the porch with some tearful apology, but no one was there. Rodriguez followed me inside. Let's check the footage, he said. We went to my home office and pulled up the security system on my computer, 4 camera angles covering the whole incident. We watched Brian's escalation, the wine throwing, Sarah's weak attempts to control the situation, my calm exit. Everything crystal clear in high definition. This is perfect evidence, Rodriguez said. Unprovoked assault, clear video and audio. The fact that you stayed calm and left immediately makes you look completely reasonable. Brian looks unhinged. That was 6 months ago. Brian's assault case went to court in February. He pleaded guilty to assault with a weapon and got 18 months probation, anger management counseling, and a permanent restraining order. The elder abuse aspect got noted in his record but wasn't charged separately. His lawyer argued it was stress-related, out of character, a moment of poor judgment. The judge didn't buy it entirely but accepted the plea deal. The financial exploitation investigation took 4 months. The Maricopa County Sheriff's Office determined it was attempted fraud but declined to prosecute given the family relationship and the fact that Brian never actually accessed any money. Just attempted to. Fidelity permanently flagged Brian's information in my account security. He can never access it again. Sarah sent me letters, 5 of them over 6 months, each one more desperate than the last, explaining their financial stress, Brian's job struggles after COVID, the crushing childcare costs, how his parents really had needed affordable housing. How sorry they both were, how it would never happen again. It all sounded reasonable on paper. But I kept thinking about Brian's face when he threw that wine, the calculation behind it, the assumption that I would just take it and forgive because we're family. I didn't respond to any of the letters. Last month I booked a trip to Scotland, 3 weeks in September, Edinburgh, the Highlands, Isle of Skye. Jennifer always wanted to see the castles there. We never made it before she got sick, always saying we'd go next year until there wasn't a next year. I'm going alone and I'm fine with that. The house feels different now, not lonely but peaceful. I joined the Scottsdale Men's Golf League at TPC and play twice a week with guys my own age who understand what it's like to protect what you've worked 35 years to build. Started taking photography classes at Scottsdale Community College. Met a widow named Lisa Patterson at the coffee shop on Scottsdale Road. We've played golf together a few times, talked about our kids, laughed about getting older in Arizona. My financial advisor says my 401k is performing well. The house keeps appreciating. I'm comfortable, secure, safe. Ashley sent me a drawing 2 weeks ago. It appeared in my mailbox with no return address, but I recognized her careful 8-year-old handwriting on the envelope. A picture of me and her and Rebecca at the TPC golf course, all of us smiling, hearts drawn around us. "I miss you," Grandpa written in purple crayon. I sat in my kitchen and cried for an hour. But I didn't call Sarah, because that's exactly what she wants. She wants the granddaughters to be the emotional leverage, the wedge to get back into my life and my house. Rodriguez says when Ashley turns 18, she can reach out on her own. We'll have coffee, I'll explain everything that happened. She'll understand or she won't. That's 10 years away. I'm 62 years old. I might have 30 more years ahead of me. I might have 5. But however long I have left, I'm living it on my terms, in my house, with my boundaries intact. Sometimes family means the people who love you unconditionally. Sometimes it means the people who want to love you conditionally, if you just give them what they want. After years of choosing everyone else's comfort over my own, I finally chose myself. And you know what? I sleep fine at night. The house is quiet, the doors are locked, the security cameras are running. Every morning, I wake up in my own bed, in my own house, living my own life. That's not selfish. That's survival. If you're dealing with adult children who think they're entitled to your home, your money, your life decisions, document everything. Get a good lawyer. Have the hard conversations. Set the boundaries and stick to them. Don't feel guilty for protecting what you've worked a lifetime to build, even from your own blood. Especially from your own blood, because at the end of the day, you don't owe anyone your peace, not even family, maybe especially not family.